So today we're going to do exam questions based on HCF and LCM. Please watch my previous video which goes over the basics of HCF and LCM. It's going to be linked in the description. Okay, now let's start the question. Trains leave Bristol to Cardiff every 15 minutes. To London every 21 minutes. A train to Cardiff and a train to London both leave Bristol at 11 a.m. At what time will a train to Cardiff and a train to London next leave Bristol at the same time? So the first thing we have to identify is this a HCF or LCM question? So HCF questions tend to be to do with division. So somebody might have lots of containers and they want to, or they might have lots of groceries and they want to see how many bags can all those groceries fit in. LCM are done with anything that requires multiples. So if anything requires multiples, then you know you have to do LCM. And this question is asking us about when the next time is going to happen. So we're going to deal with a multiple. So we have to first work out how often the two trains appear at the same time, and then we can work out next time when will these two trains meet. And that's how we know it has to be LCM. The first thing you want to do now is draw the grid like we did in the previous video. So put 15 and 21 up here. So what prime number divides into 15 and 21? That would be 3, and that gets us 5 and 7. Perfect. Because there's prime numbers now on the right side, we can't divide any further, which means all of this is our LCM. So LCM equals 3 times 5 times 7, which equals 105. Because this is to do with time, we know this has to be 105 minutes. We want to convert 105 minutes into hours as well. So we know 1 hour equals 60 minutes. So we're going to take away 60 from this. This is 5, take away 0 is 5. You can't do 0 take away 6, so we're going to carry 1 from the 1 in front. That's going to get us 4 here. So 10 take away 6 is 4, and that leaves us 45. So we know every 1 hour and 45 minutes the buses arrive at the same time. The last time they met was at 11 a.m. So now if we do 11 plus 1 hour and 45 minutes, so if we do 1 hour, so we do 11, that's 11 hours plus 1 hour, and then this should be 45 minutes here. Hour, that gets us 12 hour 45 minutes. So the time would be 12:45. Perfect. Now, moving on to the next question. This question is very similar to the first question. However, we've got different numbers. We've got 10 and 14. So it says two buses, bus A and B, both use the same bus stop. But bus A runs every 10 minutes and bus B runs every 14 minutes. Both buses are at the bus stop at 11 a.m. What time will both buses next both be at the bus stop? So because it has something to do with multiples, we know it has to be an LCM question. So now let's draw the grid again. Put 10 here, put 14 here. So which prime number goes into 10 and 14? Because they're both even numbers, we know it has to go into 2. That gets us 5 and 7. Because there's now prime numbers on the right side, we have to stop here. So LCM here equals 2 times 5 times 7, which equals 70. But once again, we don't want to have 70 here. We want to have the time in hours and minutes. So 70 can also be written as 1 hour and then 10 minutes. So if we do 1 hour, 10 minutes plus 11 o'clock, minutes, or minutes of that, that gets us 12 hour, 10 minutes. That means the answer is 12, 10. Now moving on to the third question. It's asking us to work out the highest common factor of 72, 90, and 126. So you've got three numbers here now. So we'll just write the three numbers out separately. So write 72, comma, 90, comma, 126. So I'm going to divide all these by 2 because they're all even. Got 36, 45, and 63. Next, you can divide all these numbers by 3. That get you 12, 15, and 21. Once again, you can divide by 3 again. That'll get you 4, that'll get you 5, and that'll get you 7. Because 5 and 7 are prime numbers, we have to stop. So now the highest common factor would be all the numbers in this column times each other. So HCF equals 2 times 3 times 3, which equals 18. And that is our final answer. So now moving on to the next question. HCF just means all the numbers these two numbers have in common with each other. So in this case, with 648, the numbers we have together are 2 cubed, which means 2 times 2 times 2, and 3 to the power of 4, which equals 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, 4 times. That is with the 648. With 540, you have these three numbers. You got 2 squared, which is the same as 2 times 2. You got 3 cubed, which looks like this, and you have 5. So what numbers are similar between these two? So they both have 2 times 2, and they both have 3 threes. The differences between these numbers are just highlighted here with these numbers here. Sorry, let me use a different color. They are highlighted here with these three different numbers. So now let's draw a grid. So highest common factor is all the numbers they have similar to each other. So if we draw the grid out again, the numbers that have the same is 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. We don't have to work out what these numbers are. We just need to know these are the numbers here in the highest common factor section. And the numbers they have different are 2, 3, and 5. So we can write, instead of writing 2, 3, and 5, what we can do is we can write, let's times 2 and 3 together. I get 6. And the other side will have 5. Because you can only have two numbers down here, so you can't have all three of them. So it says, what's the highest common factor? Highest common factor would be all these numbers times each other. So that would be 2 squared times 3 cubed, which equals 108. Perfect. Next question is about lowest common multiple. So now we just do all of these numbers times each other. So it makes that L shape. So you got 2 squared times 3 cubed times 6 times 5, which so times, and that will get us 3,240. So now moving on to the last question. Kenny is thinking of two numbers greater than 10. He says the highest common factor of his two numbers is 7, and the lowest common multiple of his two numbers is 84. Write down the two numbers that Kenny is thinking of. So we know HCF equals 7, and LCM equals 84. So now we have to use this information to try to work out what the original numbers could have been to get us these two numbers as a result. So first thing we'll do is draw a grid like we normally do. Okay, now we have to think what numbers should I put in the grid? So what we have to realize is 7 is a prime number. That means the only way to make 7 would just be to do 7 times 1. So we know the HCF is just 7. The only number in this column on the left is just 7 on its own. And these are the two numbers we don't know. Two numbers at the top, we just don't know what they are. And the other two numbers here, we'll just write them as A and B. So we know HCF is just everything in this column, and LCM is everything in this column. So in this column, everything times together, so 7 is just on its own, so we know this all adds up. This will get you 7 as the HCF. And we know if you times everything in the LCM together, if you times all the numbers here together, you should get 84. So if you do 7 times A times B, you should get 84. Divide both sides by 7, and you should get 12. So we know if the grid had to stop at this point with A and B, this would mean either both A and B are prime numbers, or just one of them is a prime number. So what we want to work out next is what are the prime factors of 12. So what we can do is just try to divide it 12 by 2, and that will help us get its prime factors. That goes into 2 and 6, and then we divide that further. That gives us 2 and 3. So now we know 12 has the prime factors of 2 squared and 3. So we know it has two 2's and a 3. So this can also be written as 4 times 3. So now instead of writing A and B, well, what we can write is 4 and 3. So we'll do that again. And we still don't know what the numbers at the top here are. What we do know now is it doesn't matter which letter you assign each number to. So I'm just going to make A 4 and make B 3. So how do we get back to this question marks up here? We just have to do the opposite. So now we just do 4 times 7. This gets us 28. And we just do 7 times 3, which equals 21. Which means the question marks up here were 28 and 21. 28 and 21. That is our final answer.